Uncertainty in the city as coronavirus cases skyrocket overnight. Businesses slashing the number of on-site workers as New Yorkers prepare for a possible shelter in place.
Plus, more businesses shuttered in New Jersey as an entire community is urged to self-isolate and another is clapped with a curfew. Good evening at 11. I'm Stephen Holt.
And I'm Natalie Pasquarello. We do want to start tonight with some encouraging news. For the first time since the start of the coronavirus epidemic, China reported 0 new cases today in the Hubei province, signaling a slowdown of the COVID-19 spread.
Encouraging news out of China, but the virus still spreading here at home. We're less than 24 hours away from 2 different deadlines: the closure of all indoor malls, amusement parks, and even bowling alleys across the tri-state. And then there's that looming decision in the city whether more than 8 million New Yorkers are going to have to shelter in place. Coronavirus cases in the city more than doubled in a single day. That's boosting the tri-state's total to more than 3,000 cases.
Let's get out to News 4's Ray Villeda tonight, kicking off our team coverage live from Soho. Ray.
Natalie and Stephen, usually Soho is pretty vibrant. Tonight it is so quiet. Empty storefronts, closed restaurants. The governor hoping to provide some relief for those workers who can't go to work because of quarantine issues. In the meantime, there is still some back and forth about that shelter-in-place order. Inside an Italian restaurant in the Village, the staff still working, the eatery still open for takeout with no plans of closing. But the customers have stopped coming.
This was cut down to 10%.
10% of what you normally do.
10% of what we normally do.
It's the same story all across the city. Governor Andrew Cuomo hoping to provide some relief to those workers by signing a bill to provide paid leave for those under quarantine.
We have no intention of letting any staff go. They've been with us for years.
And the situation in the city only expected to get more dire. This afternoon, Mayor Bill de Blasio pushing the possibility of a shelter-in-place order. Parks would stay open, public transportation too, even laundromats. The governor still looking into it.
There may have been more than one interpretation out there. When I said shelter in place, I want to be explicit that I'm talking about the San Francisco model because it actually exists right now in this country, and from what I'm seeing, it is working.
I am not in favor of quarantining a city. I'm not in favor of imprisoning people. But obviously, everybody wants the same thing, reduce the density.
Crowd concerns also why the governor ordered all non-essential businesses to slash half of their workforce. He also spoke with the president about military help. The USNS Comfort Naval Hospital is on the way to New York Harbor. It carries 1,000 beds. Dorms at NYU also clearing out. Students told there's a possibility their buildings could be used as hospitals to accommodate patients.
I'm a freshman. I don't really get to experience like the nice spring that we have here in New York.
New York trying to stem the tide of cases. Meanwhile, folks who live, work, and study here are trying to be optimistic.
I mean, ultimately, in the end, this is New York City. We get through it.
Yesterday, the mayor said to prepare for the possibility of sheltering in place. A decision would come in 48 hours. As we get closer to that deadline, it doesn't appear like we're any closer to a decision. We're live in Soho tonight. I'm Ray Villeda, News 4 New York.
All right, Ray, and you will keep us posted. Thank you. Well, starting next week, there won't be any traders on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's initiating a temporary business continuity plan. Fully electronic trading will begin when the markets open on Monday. Well, in New Jersey, today marked the first full day of sweeping school closures, with students transitioning to their online learning.
In Hoboken, the entire community now urged to self-isolate, while the city of Newark is now under an 8 o'clock curfew. That's where News 4's Myles Miller joins us live tonight with new details on this mandate. Myles.
Hey there, good evening to you. We're right off of busy Market Street. It is busy at any time of day, whether day or night. Tonight, very few cars on the street as Newark puts in place some very strict restrictions after its first coronavirus death. As the clock struck 8 in Newark tonight, the city's mandatory curfew, meant to contain the spread of the coronavirus, took effect. These brick city streets were quiet. Few cars on the roads and even fewer residents on the streets.
No one should be on the streets unless there is an emergency.
The first city in the Garden State to implement the policy was Hoboken, now taking it one step further, ordering residents to self-isolate.
People are allowed to leave their homes, go for a walk, get groceries, any essential services, medical services, but anything else, we'd really implore the public to stay home, give it a breather while we get through this.
Some residents finding it easier said than done.
As long as they can keep the distance, I would say people should go out a little bit, because if they stay at home, people go stir crazy.
Well, here in Jersey City at the Newport Center Mall, you could hear a pin drop. It's usually packed in here, but tonight the mall closed at 7. Stores shuttered, the halls dark, along with malls across New Jersey. They were ordered closed by Governor Phil Murphy to prevent large crowds.
If people are gathering in large numbers, we don't care where they're gathering. It's a public health concern, and we will enforce this aggressively.
The city saying late tonight they'll look at this policy again on April 1st to determine if these stores and businesses will be able to reopen just like they were earlier today. We're in Newark tonight. I'm Myles Miller, News 4 New York.
Okay, Myles, trying to keep track of all of the changes. An 88-year-old man living in Fairfield County in an assisted living center is the first reported coronavirus death in Connecticut. Health officials today announced that the total number of cases in the state jumped to 96, but we've just learned a 97th person has tested positive in Tolan County in the community of Stafford Springs.
Coronavirus cases are on the rise in Rockland County. The total number now up to 45. Health officials are asking anyone who's visited these 4 places you see there to quarantine. They say if you were at the Orheim Synagogue or the First Church of Nyack on Sunday, March 8th, you should quarantine until Monday. If you visited the Lador Adult Daycare facility last week or the Carlin Stolen Synagogue on Monday, a 2-week quarantine is also advised for you. The Manhattan attorney linked to New Rochelle's coronavirus cluster is finally awake from a medically induced coma.
That's coming from Lawrence Garbuz's wife, who revealed the news in a Facebook post saying, in part, now aware of his diagnosis, he first worries about spreading the virus to others. His second worry is about when he'll get to see his family. He wants me to make sure to make others aware so they don't get it. Garbuz communicating with his family via FaceTime. Doctors say the 50-year-old spread the virus to his wife, his children, and to several neighbors in New Rochelle.